Hi, I'm Laura Rolfe, host of Powered by Franchising and CEO of Mint Franchise Consultants. Today we have two gentlemen from Waterloo Turf joining us on the Powered by Franchising podcast. We have Lance Ingram as well as Tim Lovett, both co-owners of Waterloo Turf. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
What's going on?
Thanks for having us, Laura.
Well,
Thanks for having us, Laura. We're excited to be on here.
Well, awesome. Well, I love being outdoors, and we're inside today talking turf, but outside we get our Saturdays back. That is your slogan with Waterloo Turf. So, so let's start with you, Lance. How did you come about creating Waterloo Turf about 4 years ago?
Yeah, so long story short, I started Waterloo Turf in 2021, and I'd previously helped co-own a separate turf company, which started back in 2016. So if we go back to 2016, started up a separate turf company here in Austin, ran that for 3 years, and then sold off my ownership and kind of just got lured into the corporate world. So I ended up going into the medical device space for about 2 years. And I quickly realized that being your own boss is a lot more fun than working for the man, being in surgeries, operating rooms, responding to doctors. So realized that pretty quickly and was trying to figure out how do I get back to what I was doing before. I remember when I left my previous turf company to go into the corporate world, a lot of my buddies were telling me like, dude, you have the job that we want. Like, you make your own schedule, you have so much freedom, and you're about to give it all up to go do corporate life. And I guess I'm someone that's kind of got to touch the stove to make sure it's hot. And so I did, and I realized it's not for me. And so 2021 came back to the turf world, quit my medical device job the same month that me and my wife got married and started up Waterloo Turf. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but that's just what happened, and here we are now. So I think I said long story short before that. That wasn't that short, but that's kind of the story.
Well, I love how you talked about how business ownership impacted your life initially, and then you had to go touch the stove. I think a lot of our listeners are working for the man. They're chained by the golden handcuffs, so to speak, by that safe W-2 job. I think a lot of our spouses really like that security of a regular paycheck, medical benefits, that 401k match, et cetera. And so we get kind of stuck like this is where everybody else is, so this is where we need to be too. But you've already tasted that freedom of and autonomy of being a business owner and having the flexibility to create your own schedule, to really make a difference in your community through your previous turf company. So I think it's really smart that you're back in as an entrepreneur. So welcome back to the right side or the dark side. I don't know, depending depending upon how you look at it.
Depends on the day. Depends on the day. But yeah, no, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, and it's not easy. So making the decision to leave corporate, you're looking at getting married, and I'm sure your spouse was involved in, gosh, do I stick in those operating rooms with the selling of the devices and that job security as we look to really start our lives together? Or do you trust me enough to take this step back into business ownership, and this is going to be our company? How did she feel about that?
I mean, I think she felt like a lot of spouses would feel. I think the honeymoon phase wasn't as long as maybe it is for some people, but that's okay. Um, we fought through it. That first year is just different when you're a business owner and you're starting up a company. It was really those like grassroots days of making it work and living off of one salary for a little bit until, what I knew in my gut that the turf industry was growing, and I kind of kept tabs on it over the course of the couple years that I was outside of turf. And so I just had a feeling, just based on what I was watching, that it has become more saturated in Austin, but it doesn't mean that there's not room to wiggle back in there. And so I think, thankfully I had that prior turf experience to where it didn't take as long as it might for some other people, or maybe it did for me the first go around to get back in the groove of things. But yeah, I mean, she was definitely a supportive wife, which I think is super important for anybody that's in the entrepreneurship game, is if they're married or they have a partner, where it's just like you need that support from your spouse to be able to go and do what you want to do and like really come through and fulfill a lot of those goals that you've set out for yourself. So yeah, if it wasn't for my wife, I mean, Waterloo Turf would not be as successful as it has been.
Well, congratulations on that in the startup. So Tim, so you joined Waterloo Turf a little more recently. Tell me about your journey into entrepreneurship as co-owner.
I was, I'd say before Lance and I put our partnership together, I was an operations executive at a home services franchise platform, was running the coaching teams, the launching team, the training, a lot of the things that would happen after somebody signed on as a franchise owner. During that time, I got really interested in the turf industry. I saw that this was a booming industry. It was a fast growing industry, and there wasn't really a national player in it. So I actually spent about a year to a year and a half looking at different turf companies to franchise. I felt like it would be a great opportunity for a franchise owner to be the first mover in their market under a national brand where there wasn't one in this industry. And so I looked at a bunch of turf companies, and Lance and I are actually just friends in Austin. That's how we've known each other. And so we knew each other personally for a while. And after Lance had launched Austin and then grew into San Antonio, Lance came to me and was asking me some questions about franchising. And I said, "This is crazy. I've been looking for a turf company to franchise for about a year and a half now." And so I popped open the hood of Lance's company and really just loved what I saw. It checked all of my boxes. And then just knowing that I could partner up with a good friend of mine really got me over the line. So Lance and I put our partnership together to go franchise Waterloo Turf last summer, at which point we went and raised capital before we started franchising in December.
Well, awesome. I love a good partnership, and it's always nice to really know the person that you're getting into business with. So, yeah, I work with a lot of friends who know each other's strengths and play to those to build a successful business. So, congratulations, fellas. Your motto is "Get back your Saturdays." Lance, talk a little bit about that motto and how Waterloo Turf gives customers back their Saturdays.
Yeah, exactly. GYSB, get your Saturdays back. So, our goal is just to create more memories for families, more time, spent with friends or with family where they're not out doing yard work. So we're really trying to push more of a lifestyle brand. Yes, we do install turf, but we're in the memory giving business. So we want to be able to just, all that time that you spend on Saturdays on yard work, mowing the lawn, you can get rid of that, and you can just have friends over or hang out in the backyard, turn the Netflix off, and spend time with people you really care about.
Yeah, well, I was talking to my son last night. He lives in Omaha, Nebraska, and he's got one of those yards that he would like his Saturdays back. He's a relatively new homeowner. He didn't know he had to aerate his yard before the winter came, and now that it's spring and things are starting to grow, so are the weeds, and he still has lots of mud in the backyard. So he would like some artificial grass because that's what he grew up with. I live in Arizona, and artificial turf just, you don't have to water it. You don't look at dead lawn half the year. So it's just beautiful and green. So I'm a big fan of Waterloo Turf and the giving your Saturdays back and creating memories. What a beautiful, beautiful sentiment and mission for your business. Tim, what are some of the key benefits of franchising with Waterloo Turf?
Yeah, we're really excited about the franchise model. When Lance and I went and decided to franchise the company, one of the things that we were really set on is that we wanted this franchise model to be about franchise owner profitability. So anything that we're doing, it's really the first question that we're asking. So from a franchise model, we have tiered royalties. And so as a franchise owner, as you do better, you will do better. So we started a 6% royalty, but as you grow your revenue, you'll tier down to 4% royalties. Our territory size is about double the size of many other home services franchises. Our territory size is 350,000 in population. we'd like to find the right people as franchise owners for Waterloo Turf and give them as much opportunity as possible versus the other way around. I think some of the other benefits is that, with us, we went out and raised capital. And so, just as an emerging franchise, we not only have a lot of turf experience on the team, but we've used this capital to bring in more turf experience and more franchise experience onto the team. So, we've built up a full support team so that we can go out and support our franchise owners before the first ones even launch versus growing our support team as we bring franchise owners on. And we also put a franchisee on our board. This is something that I haven't seen many franchisors do, but for us, it was really important. We wanted the franchise owner's voice and a franchisee's voice at the most strategic level of our company. So we took one of our first franchisees. They have a seat at the board and a seat at, where is the company going long term. So really for us, we're asking the questions, we're building the model, we're growing, but it's always positioned as what does franchise owner profitability look like? And that's really, where we want to take the company.
Well, excellent. So, as far as the initial investment for Waterloo Turf, we're looking at somewhere between 106,000 and 135,000, rounding those numbers a little bit. All-in investment. So, what does the support look like for new franchise owners? For anybody who's interested in taking a look at Waterloo Turf?
Yeah, we like to say that when you're coming on as an owner with Waterloo Turf, you don't have 90 days until you launch. You actually launch the next day. So we want you to think about ownership really the next day. You come on as a franchise owner. The next day, you're now a business owner. It might take about 90 days. That would be our process till you're kicking off the first jobs. But we really want you to think about being a business owner from day one. So we have a full process to where we're going to hold your hand as you get everything in place to get your first jobs going. That will start by going through our full operations manual. So it's over 240 pages. There's a bunch of videos in there. There's days of content, just general education in the turf industry, as well as our specific operational processes for running the business. You're then going to come to in-person training in Austin. We don't want franchise owners installing turf by hand in their markets, but when you come to Austin, you're going to get your hands dirty and we're going to put you on the crew. We think that getting really deeply involved in the trade is a good way for you to learn the trade. And when you learn the trade, you'll be able to lead a crew more effectively and you'll be able to grow a sales team that respects you. So you're going to learn the trade, you're going to learn the estimating, the sales, the follow-up, the operations, the financials, everything in those 4 days, at which point you're going to go back to your local market and start promoting your business. Now, during this time, we've started paid ads for you using our creative from our marketing team and the content that we develop. So these paid ads are going to be running. You are going to be selling jobs and putting them on for your first week of jobs. We will then come out and bring our team to kick off your first week of jobs with you so that you have support with your first crew and with your first jobs. From there, it's one-to-one support. So we have a team of turf business coaches, and we plan to grow that team as we grow our franchise owners this year as well. This is a one-to-one support person, somebody who's actually been in the turf business. So when you have an issue coming up, this isn't a generalist franchise person or just a generalist support person. It's somebody who's been in the field and you've got an issue, you can FaceTime them. They'll flip it around on FaceTime and problem solve on the fly with you. So we like to think about support as, not just from the day you sign, but really ongoing so that franchise owners are able to grow their business as big as they'd like to.
So I've just mentioned two key advantages of why I like artificial turf. One is I live in the desert, and so you don't have to water it to grow. And then my son lives in a cold climate, so it's nice to have that green grass year round. What are some other selling points if you're a franchisee to really build a big business and scale in your particular market with Waterloo Turf? Lance, you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do focus residentially. So we like to think residential kind of keeps us busy on a day-to-day basis, but commercial is where we also like to spend a lot of our time. We know that commercially, the ticket items are just much larger. And so that's where we're pushing a lot of our franchisees in that direction. Once you hit a certain revenue number within the business, within your franchisee territory, you can also launch the Fresh and Clean membership program. So it's essentially where we plan to take clients and turn them into members. And so we want to be able to maintenance all these clients' yards, whether it's on a quarterly plan, a monthly plan, biannual, whatever it might be, just to make sure that their turf lasts as long as it should. And so the beauty of that is obviously you'll have a built up client book by that point when you launch, but you also open yourself up to any other client that's had turf installed in the past that maybe you didn't install it for them, but they need their turf maintenance. So we can also come in and help in that direction too. We like to think that our brand will help carry your business as well. We've seen it do that in Austin and San Antonio. To get your Saturdays back really carries for people. And then we also like to think we have decently cool hats. So we've kind of become a hat company that does turf on the side as well. I've gotten a little carried away with the hat game, but people seem to like them, including myself. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, it does. And I think it's terrific. You have a franchisee in Scottsdale. I'm going to have to reach out to them. So I'm sure you'd be happy to connect me to maintain my turf, because I wait for the rain to come, and that's really not the best way to maintain my turf, is it? Because I have dogs and I have a pool.
we get a ton of leads after a big rain.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Our inbox fills up with people looking for turf. So we always love a good rain.
Well, and our listeners should really check out your website too, waterlooturf.com, because you guys do front yards, backyards, pet turf, putting greens, sports turf, commercial turf, playground turf. Think big things, not just the little patch of grass in a front yard or a backyard. There's lots of opportunities for turf to have greener, carefree yards. So I love that. I guess, Lance, what do you wish you're a second-time business owner. What lessons did you learn the first time that have really benefited you and your franchisees the second go around with Waterloo Turf?
Yeah, I think the lessons I learned the first time that honestly carried through to the second time is just, in order to be successful, you have to do the things that other people don't want to do. And I know that's like pretty cliche and cheesy, but it really is the truth. There's a lot of things that we did here in Austin and then replicated in San Antonio that it's just the small things that other people aren't really willing to do or don't want to do that will help propel and fuel your business. Like I said, going back to the commercial aspect of things, a lot of that business is won by being face to face. It's not the leads that come through on your website or phone calls or anything like that. It's the stuff that you've got to put in the windshield time, put those miles in the car to go and personally meet with the decision makers in those offices to get your name out there, to get your brand out there, and hopefully win a lot of business. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's cliche and cheesy, but I would say that's like the thing that was true the first time around and stayed true the second go around as well.
Yeah, definitely that face-to-face interaction. There's nothing that beats that. We're in such a technology-driven society right now that I think some people feel like they're stuck behind a texting system or an email. But if you're not out there shaking hands and interacting and letting people know what type of business you're in, you're missing the spot and the point.
Yeah.
So Tim, you've been in franchising for a while. You've learned some things from your past experience in supporting franchisees, and now as CEO of Waterloo Turf. What advice do you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking at business ownership?
Yeah, I think, for people that will be interested in Waterloo Turf, we believe that turf can be a really big business, and our goal long term is to be the top national turf brand in the country. So we're looking for people that align with that type of vision and want to join us. So, people that are thinking about potentially going into business, whether it's with us or with another, often you've got to think about, hey, what's my risk tolerance and what am I able to risk? To me, there's really three things that you can risk when you're going to start a business. So one would be the capital. Do you have the capital available to where you can put it on the line? Two would be your reputation. Are you willing to go and tell people this is what you're doing and able to kind of sell a vision to either hire people or go sell jobs without necessarily knowing how to get all the way there yet because you haven't done it before? And then number three would be your time. Are you going to work full time in the business, or are you going to bring somebody else in? And, I think, what we've seen is that if you want to be successful, you've got to be willing to put all three of those in, if not two of those in. If you're doing less than two, it's going to be really hard to be successful, whether you're not bringing the relationships in and risking your reputation. Maybe you're not putting up much capital. Maybe you're not putting up much time and you're hiring a general manager. To us, and my recommendation would be really think about, what am I willing to risk? And, the more you're willing to risk, the more likelihood you'll always have to be successful, because the business, when it's got more behind it, whether it's relationships, time, or capital, it's got a better opportunity of being successful.
Very sound advice. I was at a franchise event a few weeks ago, and we talked a lot about what a successful franchisee looks like, and you hit on all three spots. If you're hiring somebody else to manage your business for you, the runway is going to be much longer and much more expensive than if you're the one being boots on the ground, operating your business from the start, because you don't have to pay a general manager big bucks to be the visionary for your business, and they're not going to care as much about your business as you care about your business. They might want to have a few more of their Saturdays back as well. So, nothing like pulling up your sleeves and putting in the grind and the hard work yourself. And there's a much shorter launch pad to profitability rather than that long runway. So thanks for sharing your vision. So Lance, what do you see as your short-term and long-term growth objectives for Waterloo Turf?
Yeah, replicate what Tim just said. Is we want to be the largest national brand in the turf space. So we want to grow out to as many locations as possible, but we also want to do it with the right people. For me, that's the most important thing. Franchisee profitability and doing it with the right people is why I ended up going into franchising rather than just like pushing Waterloo through the corporate route. So, be the largest national brand, and then continue to just push that lifestyle brand aspect as well. Something that I'm super passionate about. It's been fun to see the brand grow, and we're really just getting started with it. So I'm super excited to see where it is years down the road.
So to talk a little bit about your current franchisees and what is contributing to their success, maybe a little bit about their profile and their backgrounds.
Yep. Yeah, so currently we have 3 franchisees who own 11 territories combined. We have one of our owners located in Fort Worth. This is a former college baseball player, was also in medical device sales, and is leaving that career to go all in on this business. And so really just believes in the vision of building a large turf company and wants to build a legacy for himself and for his family, and is putting all of his time, his capital, and reputation in it. We have another franchise owner in Scottsdale. This is somebody who's also coming out of sales management, led a sales team of about 16 people, formerly was also a college athlete, and same thing, just has seen the industry grow locally, but also nationally, really believes in the industry, wants to be a part of an industry with a lot of tailwinds in it that's growing, and is going all in on the business. And then finally, our last franchise owner in Houston, this is an existing business owner. This person owns a couple of other businesses that totals around 50 million in revenue. And for him, this is a diversification. This is getting out and diversifying out of a capital intensive business and something that's a little bit more capital light. And so he's hired a general manager who's also a partner with him. That general manager is going to be running the day-to-day in the Houston market, and the general manager is coming out has a naval background, and also had run a different home services company in the past.
Yeah, so it sounds like people who like the outdoors is really important. People who appreciate, that life-work balance, who are willing to work hard and be all in, whether it's all in with their time or their capital or both. So very exciting to hear about your growth. How does technology or innovation play into your business model?
Yeah, Tim, you can jump on it, but I can touch on it briefly as well. We're we're super focused on technology. We've just seen the benefit of it. We've seen that in our estimating process. It's really just won us a ton of bids. We have a piece of software that we use that can help gather the square footage of a residential backyard, for instance. And so we can do it on the spot. It's connected to an app where it can show us exactly how much square feet are in that client's backyard. That can parlay into another piece of software we have where we can take that square footage drawing from that original app and send it over to this other website, and it can actually tell us exactly the roll size that we're going to need for that project space while eliminating as much waste as possible. And we can do this all on the job site. So we can send bids while we're at the bid to try and win that client before we even leave that estimating process. And it's just made us way more competitive. And honestly, it keeps things easy, keeps it simple.
Tim, what are some other things that you would advise our listeners who are interested in learning more about Waterloo Turf? What are the next steps that they should take if they have been listening to this podcast and want to chat with you?
I think working with a consultant's an excellent idea. Just having somebody who can listen to the type of ownership that you want, somebody who knows the industry, knows what's out there, can hear about your financial capability and match you with the right brand. I think that's really an excellent way to go about it. From there, once a consultant would introduce a potential franchisee to us, we just like to have a very introduction phone call. For us, we're really looking for the right franchise owners, not just trying to, you know, saturate as many territories as possible. So it's going to be me. I mean, we want to get to know you personally, and so we're going to have a phone call with you and really understand who you are, what your long-term goals are, what you believe about franchising and business ownership, and just making sure that that's a good fit on our end. From there, we can discuss the territory, we can talk through FDD. We want to get you on the phone with Lance as well before coming out to Austin and visiting our team in person so that you can see the type of support and really meet the people that are going to be supporting you throughout your journey as a business owner. So that's what next steps look like. For us, it's we definitely we have seen that the successful franchisees in this business ascribe to what Lance and I would call the Groundhog's Day concept. So a lot of what Waterloo is it's simple. It's really simple, but it's not easy, but it's simple. So there's not much complexity, but if you can run the same play and if you can follow the playbook day in and day out, that's who's going to be successful in this business. And so, a lot of times we're talking with former athletes, people coming out of ministry, or just individuals coming from sales backgrounds who are used to and like running the Groundhog's Day process over and over to build something big for themselves.
Yeah, I love the simplicity of franchising. If you can follow a proven playbook, you can knock it out of the ballpark, as a pun to your two athletes that you have on board. I think some people get a little bit nervous about looking at emerging brands, and I absolutely love emerging brands because look at some of the things you're doing that are out of the box ideas that are engaging your newest franchise owners. You have somebody on the board, which isn't common. The franchisees have a voice on your board. They are going to have direct contact and direct ear to both of you as co-owners and CEO and founder of Waterloo Turf. They are going to be instrumental in shaping the 100th or the 200th Waterloo Turf franchisee. Are there any other benefits or if somebody's a little nervous about looking at an emerging brand like Waterloo Turf, what would you say to them, Lance?
Yeah, I think Tim could speak to this too, but I mean, I would say don't be too nervous. I took a lot of the failures on the chin early on so that you don't have to. And I like to think that what we've done in San Antonio so far is a great validator for the playbook that we have in place. And what was done in San Antonio was done prior to even having this awesome team built around us here at Waterloo. So I'm super excited about the future just based on what we've been doing. And now that we have, this all-star team surrounding the entirety of Waterloo Turf, I mean, sky's the limit for anybody that jumps in and joins this franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with Lance. I think, looking at emerging franchises, I think that's a big benefit of working with a consultant is because they can help you work through some of this and make sure that you're putting yourself in front of the right brand. For us, it's part of the reason why we wanted to publish the full P&Ls in the item 19. There's no made up accounting terminology in there. There's no disclosed expenses. There's no, hiding stuff. It's just the full P&L. And so, I'm sure some people will look at it and say, well, that could have been better. Maybe I'll go with this brand. But we think that there's enough people out there in turf who can look at this and see the potential and really get behind wanting to be a part of a national brand while building their business in the turf space. So, yeah, I think we like working with people that, can see the vision and want to be a part of building that too with Lance and I.
Well, and I love the transparency that you both have for potential franchisees. And also, I would add that the two of you are a big reason to look at Waterloo Turf. You are seasoned professionals. You're experienced in franchising and in the artificial turf space. Both of you have a wide, some sales, your sales background and experience in supporting teams and other people. And that's going to translate in big ways to the success of individual franchise operators as well as to the franchise as a whole. So in closing this afternoon, Lance, do you have anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
I mean, I hope that y'all were entertained and you feel a little bit more knowledgeable about turf after listening to this. But yeah, I mean, Laura, we just appreciate the opportunity to be on this with you, get to introduce Waterloo Turf a little bit more to anybody that might be interested in it, and the spread the good word of what getting your Saturdays back could look like.
And Tim, the final word is with you.
Man, it's tough. It's tough to close with anything different than that. It's all about getting your Saturdays back. So, yeah, we appreciate you having us on your podcast, Laura, and look forward to working with you and look forward to working with any of the people that you're talking with that might want to get into business themselves one day and build something big.
Well, I do have one final question. So sorry, I said that was the final thought, but I have one more question. So getting your Saturdays back, does that, is that apply to your franchise owner as well? Do they get their Saturdays back?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I've had my Saturdays back for the last 4 or 5 years now, so I don't see why every franchisee shouldn't be get their Saturdays back as well. It's more of it is for the consumer to get your Saturdays back, no more yard work, all that stuff. But we do apply it to the franchisee style as well, where we want this to be a job, a business that they own, where they do feel like every day is a Saturday. So you are running your business. There's highs and lows of that, but at the end of the day, that's a special opportunity that a lot of people don't have. And so treat every day like it's Saturday. Enjoy what you do, enjoy who you do it with, and go put out an amazing product.
Yeah, well, if any of our listeners want their Saturdays back and want to learn more about Waterloo Turf, please give me a call, book an appointment. I'd love to chat with you a little bit more about the business opportunity and connect you with Tim and Lance to get your Saturdays back as well. Gentlemen, such a pleasure having you on the Powered by Franchising podcast this afternoon, and looking forward to helping some of our listeners invest in their own franchise and getting the freedom of entrepreneurship, which is such a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Laura.
Totally agree. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen.